Howdy, everybody at Shasta College. Hope your 4th of July was rocking. I was up in Portland where it was a lot cooler, by the way, but warm in the 90s, but that's nothing. We're used to that here. Anyway, I went to the fireworks. They shoot overlooking the Willamette River. They shoot them off on a barge. It's quite beautiful. Thousands of people were attending, and everybody was behaving. No mass shootings, no drunks. It was just lots of families enjoying the 4th of July celebration. Hope yours was as peaceful as mine was. I'm back though into the North Country and wanted just to give you a little brief rundown about your assignment. Hope you see it there. The assignment is to write about an artist, a painter. Um, Choose one, and I'll tell you a little bit about each one. Watch the documentaries, pick the artist, watch the documentary. That will help. Do some more research. That'll also help. Make sure you have a works cited page. That's a necessity. Remember, 3 minimum pages, up to 5. That's part of the discipline of writing these essays. Um, the artist, and this is in no order, Alice Neal's is the only woman there because there's not that many women throughout history have been getting their due. I could have had Frida Kahlo on there, who I love. I could have had Georgia O'Keeffe, famous artist, but Alice Neal kind of slipped through the cracks a bit. She was radical in her day, but not really paid much attention to because when she was painting her rather realistic portraits of people, aging people, nudes, it wasn't in what was going on with the abstract expressionism of, say, Jackson Pollock or Willem Dafoe. Willem, um, not Willem Dafoe, that's the actor. De Kooning, that's what I'm talking about, or Andy Warhol. She went against the grain and wasn't kind of rediscovered later in her 80s. And she painted up until the early 80s. And watch a little documentary on her. You can see her techniques and painting in her New York apartment, never gave up, never stopped, and kept trying to look for the truth in her subjects. And that's all an artist could do. Whether it's your truth or not, doesn't matter. It was her truth. Now, her truth hopefully connects with an audience. I mean, that's the beauty of the artist, their connection to us. That's why I had you have that discussion. Have you ever been to a museum or a gallery? And is it boring? Does it affect you? I've been in some of the greatest museums in the world: the Louvre, British Museum, New York, MoMA, the Prado in Spain. I go to these museums because it's the best of our humanities is in our arts, and I seek that out. Another artist you can write about is Vincent van Gogh. You probably heard of him, possibly. He's the guy that supposedly went crazy over a woman and cut his ear off and sent it to her in the mail. Not quite accurate. It was only part of his ear, and it was a prostitute that he was in love with who wasn't responding the way he wanted. Um, poor Van Gogh wasn't really discovered until after he was dead. He only sold one painting in his lifetime, and that was to his brother. So they didn't understand his art at all. He was misunderstood, and he was in and out of mental institutions. Look at the documentary, do some research. Um, Amsterdam, I've been to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. The work is incredible. He only painted for 10 years, which is a very brief time in a painter's life. And then he killed himself. And he didn't even do that uh, right. It took him, after he shot himself, he dragged himself to the hospital. It took several days to die. So, but he would be diagnosed right now, probably bipolar, autistic, the whole bit, put on medication, and maybe survive past his young age. That when he died, um, he was kind of mocked in the communities. It was because he was kind of the crazy guy out in the field with his painting trees and nature. It wasn't until later when people really took a look at the work and saw he was inventing a new style, a new genre of painting, and they're still trying to figure it out to this day. And people, and so um, that's another one you can write about. And all these artists I'm talking about today have all been influenced by Vincent van Gogh. Um, this one also, Pablo Picasso, um, born in Spain, spent most of his career in Paris, France. He was there when the Germans occupied France. Um, he was like everybody else, scared of the Nazis, and he tried to live with them. Um, Pablo Picasso's the godfather of modern art. Really, he is. He painted from the early 1900s. He lived until he was 90 something, into the 70s. Um, no, he was born in the 19th century. Sorry, he lived a long time, had a lot of wives. He was known as a tough customer, um, meaning he didn't treat his women that good. They were models, and he abused them. When I say abuse, I'm talking about mental torture, and a lot of them married him. He had children with all of them. He was quite the ladies' man, and he painted some of the greatest art in the history of mankind. And he had his down periods. He was painting in this style called cubism. He didn't invent it, but he popularized it. He had a blue period where all his paintings were in blue. And it's because a friend of his killed himself, and that was one of the prompts for him to go into this blue period. And then he just painted and painted until the day he died. And he lived way into the 20th century, and he's interviewed on news shows. And and he was also a sculptor. Uh, I saw his art in the Prado in Spain, and it's devastatingly genius. It's hard to describe it unless you see one up close. And in that museum is where they have Guernica, his famous black and white painting drawn in the late 1930s of the bombing of a town in Spain called Guernica. Uh, there was a Spanish Civil War there. They were trying to kick out the fascist dictator Franco. And Franco's buddy was Adolf Hitler. And Hitler sent a bunch of his bombers over to, to Spain and bombed a town and killed everybody almost in it. All the innocent people. That's how they dealt with things, folks. That's how they did it. And he painted this painting, which is considered the greatest anti war painting ever. Um, when you're watching the documentary, please pay attention to Guernica and write about Pablo Picasso. All these artists have changed everything in the history of art. That's why they matter. Whether you like their art or not, that's not the point. The point is it changed. They disrupted the status quo, and with their vision. And this other one definitely did that. Andy Warhol, maybe you've heard of him. You've probably seen him. He was kind of eccentric with the white toupee. That was always obviously a toupee. He wasn't trying to hide anything. And he created almost single-handedly with others what they call pop art, and by painting the Campbell soup cans and putting them on display, as original art, um, and once again shook the world. He came out of the world of advertising, born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with a strict Orthodoxy Catholic religion haunting him. He was born with a bad skin condition, homosexual, and he had to get out of that small town. And he went to New York City, where all these artists, essentially, except for Picasso and Van Gogh, the, most artists ended up in New York. Jackson Pollock, Willem de Kooning, they all migrated there because that's where he went in the 40s and 50s and 60s. Um, and later on, other artists like Basquiat stuff were there in the 80s. Um, Keith Haring, that changed all the art in the 80s. Now, I can't go into all that because we only have a couple days to spend on this stuff in this, what they call a survey class. So anyway, that's the three artists. Andy Warhol um, also made movies. You can look at those online. He also managed the Velvet Underground, one of the greatest rock bands of all time that didn't sell any records. That was Andy's band that he managed. He didn't do much, folks. He's given producer credit on their first album, but he mostly wasn't even in the recording studio. Lou Reed and John Cale did everything. Maybe you've heard of Lou Reed. He had a famous song, Walk on the Wall Side, but not when he was in the Velvet Underground. Anyway, it changed everything. It changed fashion, people's idea of what art is in the modern world. And once again, it changed everything. It became based on art as a celebrity. Andy Warhol died way too young at 58 years old of a gallbladder botched surgery. And but what he did in his years in New York City changed New York, and it's still changed because of Andy Warhol. Okay, that's the four artists. Pick one, research it, try to get to who they are, not just give me a cut and paste off job from Wikipedia or something. Try to get out their art and why they matter, not just the stats about where they were born and what school they went to. That's boring stuff. And find out why they were, what motivated Picasso, what motivated Van Gogh. It's all there in the documentaries and in your research. Have fun doing it. Don't dread this stuff. It's due next week. I haven't looked at your playwrights. I'll have those graded by next week. Join the discussion. Also, one final note on the journal reflection. Keep up on that. I'll post a sample of that in announcements, and you'll see what I'm looking for. But it's essentially a diary of what we're doing in this class, a weekly diary, and it's worth 10 points, and it's going to come in handy if you need it. It'll be there. You know how to get a hold of me. You know my email and my phone number. Text me if you have issues. Some of you have. If you're going to be late, some of you have been. I will accept. I'm not like other professors. I accept late essays, but you will lose some points on them, maybe 2 points. If it's really late, I would probably say don't bother and hand it in. A couple days here and there is not an issue. But I usually close down the thing in Canvas, and you'll have to email it to my email. Some of you already have as an attachment. Okay? Hope you all well. It's Friday. I'm going to go out this weekend to see my friends and a J band. They're playing at the Red Lion. I'll be there. Keep the faith, and remember, art is the best we humans have done on the planet. Not inventions, not warfare, not technology, but the art that shows who we are as humans.